So it's queuing us up for live. We are now live, but I know it always takes a few minutes anyways for it to show up and for people to see it live in their feed. But we are live so far. I see one person has given us the thumbs up, so that's awesome. Because we're doing this through StreamYard, it's a little different. So it's different technology. I'm still kind of getting used to it. But I can't actually necessarily see everybody that joins in the Facebook group.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but so this will, for anybody, obviously we're going to have people on live today, so that's awesome. But this will also be a replay that people can watch through Facebook. So that makes it really nice that if people are, busy today or working or whatever they're doing with the kids, they can catch it at any time at their leisure, which is nice. And I'm also going to upload this to YouTube. And obviously I'll tag you, Saijals, so that if people want to catch it through YouTube as well, it'll always be available that way, because I think it's going to be so good and the content is going to be so important for women to tune in and to take part in this conversation today. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome everybody who has joined in, and even those that will be watching this later on the replay. So thank you to everyone for coming and listening to myself, Jodie. I'm the founder of Clean Kiss, and I've got here with me today Saijal Patel, who is the founder of Saij Elle. So welcome, Saijal.
Thanks for having me, Jodie. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to join. Yeah, here too. So this group, if you're watching this right now, you know that you're watching this as part of our Find Your 40 group. And so Clean Kiss launched this initiative in 2020, which I actually think it was a great year to launch this, because there's so much going on and there's so many discussions around people during this time of COVID, people that have been really checking in with themselves and checking in with their health, with their wellness, both physical, both emotional, spiritual, and financial. And so that's actually the topic today that we're talking about with Saijal. And she's the person that you need to talk to when you want to talk financial wellness, right? Because this is what you do for a living. You're very passionate about it. I love the fact that I've gotten to know you through our Grow Your Biz board. And I just love your story. And I love everything that you promote for all women. But especially, we really share the same demographic of women in their 40s, right?
Yeah, we do.
So can you tell everyone what it is that you do, and tell us all about your impressive list of credentials, experience, and all your travels, and tell us all about who is Saijal?
Sure. Thanks, Jodie. So I'm born and bred Canadian, Manitoba girl. My parents immigrated from India back in the late 60s, but I was born here. So I really feel like I have this appreciation for everything Canada has to offer, in terms of freedom and independence and education and opportunities. I would say that just as a person, I think I'm a pretty curious person. I don't know if I was always that way. I've kind of gone from a type B to more of a type A to now I'm a AB, where I can be very focused and driven when I need to be, but I'm a lot more chill these days, especially I'd say when I hit my 40s. I just really craved balance. That's really important to me. And I think I've always been someone who has, what really has been driven to make a difference in the world, whatever that is. I do believe that everyone has a unique gift and contribution to this world. And so for me, and it sounds crazy to a lot of people, but for me, it's this world of finance, and I fell into it, really. I didn't know what I was going to do when I started university, but I ended up going into business management and taking finance courses, and I ended up falling in love with it. I just thought it was just the greatest thing ever. And then I started working in the financial industry. I was an advisor's assistant and then eventually advisor. So I worked on a number of financial cases for people, and honestly, every walk of life. Like some made $10,000 or had $10,000 savings, and some were multi-millionaires, and even some celebrities and athletes. And as I progressed in my career, one of the things that I did fall into, again, was business journalism. So again, total fluke, but I loved talking about the industry. And I think what intrigued me and what I appreciated about the financial industry and that world of finance is just how critical it is to all of our lives. You know, whether we like it or not, money is everything. We live in a capitalist world. Right. And how we manage our money, how companies that we work for manage their money, how governments manage their money, all of that has huge implications on us. Right. What frustrated me, though, as I was a journalist, is I realized that I felt like I was in the secret club. I felt like I knew this, and I had big pictures, and I understood the strings of power that were being pulled, and 90% of people didn't know. Because the information is not, Jodie, made accessible. Okay. It's not made accessible in a way that's relatable to people, that's easy to understand. There's a lot of jargon. Sure, you can Google and you'll find tons of articles around personal finance, but it's not a concept that we're used to. Right. And yet it's critical, isn't it? It's a life essential skill. And so many people don't have access to it. So for me, that became a mission with Saijelle, was I wanted to make this information accessible. I wanted it to be relatable, not with biases, because unfortunately, sometimes if it comes from certain organizations, there is a bias to it because they're selling a product. Right. For me, it's all about education and really empowering, really, and especially women.
I think that is, you've touched on so many important points there. One of them being, if the people listening today, if they're part of a corporation, probably their corporation has brought to them, at various points in time, different speakers that are, coming to educate them, but are also selling something. And I think that has a connotation to it, and often that turns people off because they feel like they're maybe hearing a one-sided approach to advise them on how to manage their finances. So that's really what I really love about what you do, is that you are just in this business to be able to educate women. And you have a course that you've just launched, and it is focused on just that. And so can you tell us a little bit about your course and what that is designed to do, and what benefits?
Yeah. So I just launched my course called Strictly Money. And again, when I was creating this,
I think you've frozen on me. Are you there, Saijal? She has just frozen, so I don't know what the technology is doing. Just give us a second here. Let's see if she comes back. Saijal was just about to start telling us about her new course called Strictly Money, which she just launched. So I'll just tell you a little bit, and while we wait and see if she's able to rejoin us. So this Strictly Money course just launched, and it is available. It's all online, and I believe there's 12 modules. So it takes a number of weeks to work through it, if not even months, to work through her program. And it's all about teaching personal finance to women. So yeah, I have lost her. She is not here. So now she's totally disappeared from the screen. Let's see if she comes back. There she is.
Am I back? I don't know what's going on here.
You are back. We can see you, and
Let's see if this is working.
We can see you from the nose down. So just maybe adjust.
Yeah, because now it's kind of gone into a different camera. So let's try this. I don't usually have internet problems. We're going to try this other camera.
It's Murphy's Law. Technology is going to not cooperate. But while you were gone, I probably wasn't doing it justice, but I was talking about your course.
Oh, okay.
And I was explaining that it's a number of modules. I believe it's 12.
There are 5 modules and 14 lessons. And the reason I designed it that way, Jodie, is because I believe that everyone should have, and women should have, the complete financial picture. You know, it's not enough just to have savings in place, and that's it. There's bigger pieces. Like, you actually have to be able to build your wealth for a number of reasons. You know, today it's really difficult to get ahead and financially thrive. Expenses have gone through the roof. Yeah. Our pool of expenses, it's not just inflation, it's actually the things that we deem necessary. Right. Our smartphones and our laptop and internet when it works. You know, all these things, our pool, the basket has gone up, and our wages are not keeping up. So we tend, as women, tend to think, a lot of people think that, you know, just because we get the salary, that's going to be enough. But you can't build wealth that way. Right. It doesn't work. So you actually have to invest and create a diversified investment. So a big chunk of my course is all about how do you build wealth in a way that's sustainable. You know, that you can protect yourself from the downside risk as much as you can, and yet build your wealth so you have something to live off. There's a retirement planning section, and then there's a piece, the 5th module is really around protecting your wealth. Okay. Estate planning, insurance planning, because that's another piece that is often ignored, and yet incredibly important. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, how timely is this, that 2020 has delivered everybody such a curveball in terms of what is going on with the economy. And there's been so many people that have lost their jobs, or they've been, you know, on reduced hours during this time period, which is a huge impact to their financial income. Even if they're collecting CERB or getting some top up, it's still not keeping them whole, right? Right. And can you talk to us a little bit about, you know, now in this new era of 2020, you know, you developed this course. I know you've been developing it over the past year, I guess. How have things changed in terms of how you're speaking to women now in this new environment, in this new economy? What's different than, you know, if you were doing this last year?
So this is a really interesting question, Jodie, because honestly, from my perspective, nothing's changed.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have always seen that there is always this risk of uncertainty. That's the lens that I came in doing what I do and creating this business many years ago. Now, I never expected it to be this bad, but I always knew that at some point something can happen. There's so many things that are not in our control that affect our financial security. And that's exactly why I wanted to build this course, because we seem to think that, unfortunately, we feel like, oh, you know what, there is so much out of our control, and we become resigned to it. We just think, oh, I don't know what I can do. I'm just going to give up and, you know, and cross my fingers and hope that everything works out. And my message to women is, no, there is actually a lot you can do. There is a lot in your control. And, you know, so a big piece of what I talk about is why it's been so difficult to build financial wellness and financial security. And it started probably about, I'd say, the great financial crisis in 2008, to me, was the pivot. As much as we say the economy has taken off and everything, we never really recovered in the way we should have recovered. There was a lot of shortcuts being taken. Cheap money to get people to spend and spend and spend and spend, to keep the economy going, to keep politicians where they are. Honestly, like, you know, this is big stuff. Pension plans were disappearing because it was just too much of a burden. And on top of that, we're living longer, which means we have to save much more to sustain us until we're 80 or 90. And that's, some of that stuff is out of our control. You know, the thing that is in our control is our financial capability. It's learning what we need to learn and managing our money more effectively, building that wealth and protecting ourselves. Because I always say to women and really everyone, it's like, no one's going to care about your money more than you or your financial future. No one will. You know?
So why do so many of us then, and I say us as women, specifically, because it does tend to be more of our male counterparts, our male partners or our parents or whatever that have had the focus on finances. Why is it that women tend to bury their heads, tend to just put their head in the sand and say, this will kind of work out. I'm just gonna, like you said, cross our fingers and go on a hope and a prayer and just go, I hope to God that, you know, everything always works out and just fly by the seat of my pants. What does that do to us as women, the position that we leave ourselves in?
Well, I feel that women have been fed biases since we were very young that get so ingrained on us, and it becomes very subconscious that we don't realize the messages that were sent that hurt us. And I'll give you an example, Jodie. So we tend to, all of us have money narratives, every single one of us. At some point in our life, and it was probably by the time you were 7 or 8, you learned certain values and beliefs and attitudes towards money. And it either came from your parents, and this is not to blame parents, it just is, and or the system. You know, somebody was telling you something. And what typically happens for women is they're told to be safe with their money. You know, and boys are not told that. In fact, they've done studies that show that parents feel more comfortable talking about money to their sons than women, to their daughters. So that already says something. Then I just want to bring up mass media. So what is our mass media? You think about your favorite magazine or your favorite talk show, morning show. And I love all of them. How often is it about how women spend and what they spend on? Everything is. It's all about, what do you buy this and you're going to be more likable and you're going to be more pretty and you're going to be lovable and you're going to find the man of your dreams. But make sure you get a deal. You know, let's manage the money. Don't buy too many lattes. It's like this conflicting message. But what happens is so many women are like, you know what, I'm really great at managing money. I'm great at managing the purse strings at home, which is good. But it goes back to my point before, that is not going to keep you wealthy. It's not going to give you security. You actually have to build wealth. So part of it is just these messages that we're getting, subliminal, you know, messages, subconscious messages that we're not, this is supposed to be a man's world.
Right.
Look, it wasn't even that long ago that women could get credit cards in their own name.
Oh my God.
I mean, really, it wasn't that long ago. Yeah. So we've made some progress, but I believe we have to change our mindset and be aware of these messages that are coming to us that are just, they're not true. Women, I can tell you, women are much better at investing, at managing the entire picture, because we tend to think holistically when it comes to managing money. So we will look at something and say, okay, well, I want to achieve these goals. I want to make sure my kids are educated. I want to make sure I retire, go on this vacation. How does this pool of money get me there? Which is the right way to think. Men typically don't think like that. They're like, I'm investing. I'm going to try to make as much money as I can. And hey, I have this. But they're not thinking about the big picture, which women do. Women are almost always blamed for being risk averse. Oh, you know what? Women don't like taking a lot of risk. That's not true. Women are risk aware. We need more data points to decide whether something is risky or not, which again is the right thing. You know, don't just jump in and then see.
Right.
You know,
So we're less impulsive. We take our time, we collect the facts, we look at the data before we make a decision. Tell me about, and this is one of the things that was a teaser when I put out the event invite for today. This I still find shocking. And I tell my daughters, I'm a mom to 3 teenage daughters, and like it drives me insane. I'm also a former corporate executive. So I know being in the corporate world and being, you know, working alongside with a lot of men, this fact drives me insane. Talk to us about the wage gap and the differential between males and females.
Yes. So I think most people who are on this know what the wage gap is. You know, we talk about it, I think every International Women's Day, this topic comes up, and how we're so far from closing the inequality gap. Wage gap, obviously, is when women make less money than men. Sometimes it's misunderstood because it's not always the case where we're making less than a man for the same job, although it does happen. We know it happens.
Yeah.
But often it is because we are not putting our hands up for that promotion, or in industries that necessarily pay higher, or, you know, at a level like an executive level that pays more. So typically that wage gap, depending on where you are, I think in Canada it's around 20%. It might be a little bit less now.
Okay.
But what women don't understand is that, so, okay, we make less, but we also typically have the burden. I don't want to say burden. It's not the right word, but we're typically the caregivers, right? So whether it's children or older parents, and so we take career breaks.
Or both.
Yes, or both.
Yeah.
And so we take career breaks. So what does that mean? That means we're making less, we're working less. And what that means is you're entitled to less pension. So the company is not going to give you as much pension if you're lucky to have a company pension. The government, when you get CPP, you're not going to get the same.
No.
And that 20 to 25% wage gap turns into a 40 to 50% pension gap. It's massive. Imagine getting 40 to 50% less in retirement. And on top of that, we live longer. You know, we typically live 5 or 6 years longer than a man. We have less to live off. And that's what I try to make women aware of, is there are all these structural challenges that we face. Unfortunately, we're not closing this overnight. You know, it's going to take time. The more we're aware of it, I do believe we will start being vocal when we understand the implications to our financial security, but we're not closing it overnight. So what do? It goes back to my point around financial capability, because that's the stuff that is in our control.
Right.
You know, we can learn to invest. We can manage our money a little bit more effectively, and plus we're better at it.
So one of the things that I know you and I have had these discussions in the past, and so I'll just bring everybody up to speed on how you and I have discussed financial wellness, is, you know, I say what I do, Clean Kiss. You know, I formulate and I sell natural skincare, as you know, Saijal, and everybody on this call I'm sure knows. And so to me, you know, that's a very integrated part of wellness, because it's what you're putting on your skin, it's what you're putting in your body that affects your skin. But I like to also talk about other factors of wellness that are crucial. So you can't ever just pick up a magic potion and go, oh, I'm going to put this on. It's going to make me, you know, look 10 years younger, and, you know, whatever other things we buy into, right? When we're getting sold a product, it's everything. Okay. And so part of the wellness wheel that you and I have talked about, Saijal, is, you know, I like to think of it as there's, you know, physical, there's spiritual, there's emotional, you know, there's mental health, there's financial health or financial wellness, you know, as we're talking about today. And so what I'm hoping that we're conveying here in this conversation is that if you want to be whole, if you want to really be focused on your overall health and wellness, you cannot miss this piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
This piece of the pie, which is financial wellness, will absolutely stress you out. It will impact your health in so many other ways. All those other pieces of the pie that I mentioned, the mental, the spiritual, the physical. Because if you don't have your financial future set up, you cannot ever feel at peace. I really believe that.
I do too.
Right.
And it's funny because I do, you get a lot of controversy around it, and people are like, no, it's my health. And I'm going to tell you, without money, you can't have health.
Right.
And it was COVID that actually sort of shone this light that people were recognizing. We take it for granted. We're going to keep getting our paycheck and things are going to go well. But
right.
It's all integrated, like you said. And because we live in a world where everything is driven by money, whether we like it or not, it's such an important piece. I can give you some statistics also with how integrated this is. So someone who is financially stressed is 4 times more likely to have insomnia problems. I believe it's 3 times likely to suffer from depression. You're 25% less likely to exercise. 42% of people who are financially stressed have said that they're not as productive at work. We know what money stress does to marriages and relationships.
Killer.
Number one. So it is an important piece. But my message to women too is that I think we need to understand, because the other thing we've always been fed, and I think a lot of women believe, is that women or money is dirty. It's a dirty word. We're not supposed to talk about it. And so we live in this silence and shame that we don't know, or we're not where we need to be. And that's where I believe we have to start talking about this more. Wanting money is not a bad thing.
Right.
Money is, in fact, it's powerless until you attach values to it. So I always say, well, attach good values to it. You should never have to apologize for wanting to take care of your family and wanting to have experiences in life that bring you joy. Why is that a bad thing?
Right.
And
again, that's more of a female thing, isn't it?
It is. And again, because we don't talk about it, I know, but I know a lot of men who don't talk about it either.
Right.
And feel embarrassed, but for some reason that burden seems to be more on women. And if we don't talk about it, if we bury it, then we will never take steps to address it and do things with it. So I always say, stop apologizing. We should.
That's true of women in general. Stop apologizing, right? but especially when it comes to finances and wanting to make money. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I know for myself personally, I feel like there's not a lot that I want for or need. So, if I really want to have an experience, call it a traveling experience, my husband and I can, make that our financial priority and our goal, and we plan for it and we do it, right? Yeah. I know not everybody has that ability to do that, but those that do, save for trips or save for things, or, want that car, or, want to reward themselves, you're working hard in order to be able to achieve those things.
Yeah.
But we tend to shy away from wanting to. Nobody wants to look like you're being a braggart. Nobody wants to look like you're, showing off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then we tend to minimize our success, especially as women.
Yeah. And that's it. And trust me, there's a lot of shame that goes on with wealthy people as well, because they do feel guilty. Some of them do, they're like, well, I need this money and I can't talk about it at all because people are going to look at like, hey, who are you to have this kind of money? So we do see that quite a bit, but I do think it's really important to be able to have those discussions and not apologize for wanting something.
Right.
That brings us not just security, but actually brings us joy in life.
Well, and reduces our stress.
Yeah.
So, those stats you shared around, insomnia and people not exercising, not looking after their health. Those are things that we can easily remedy.
Yeah.
It's a journey. You're not going to just flick a switch and suddenly you're going to have control of your financial future. But there are steps that you can start doing today as women. It doesn't really matter your age. I mean, the younger, the better, right? We know that about finances. But even if you're in your 40s or your 50s and you're just about to start, hopefully today you're inspired to, take some greater control of your wealth for the future. Now is the time to start doing it, right? And don't be embarrassed. Like lose the shame around finances.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed and just say, okay, where do I start? And, Saijal, you're a great resource for people to just start, right? And
you can follow my website. You can, join my mailing list or just follow me on Instagram at Saijelle or Facebook. That's a start because there's plenty of articles and things that I post. If you're not ready to take the course, that's totally fine. But there is information out there. I was also going to make the point about, that you made is that it's never too late. We are living much longer. We are going to be around, I don't know, maybe until we're 90. So if you're 40, you got 50 years.
That's fine. You better start.
Yeah. And what women don't recognize, a lot of people don't recognize, is the power of compounding. This is the magic. This is, so when you're investing and you're building, say you're getting 5% return or 6% return, that 6%, if you keep it in the pile, that earns interest. And then the next year you got a bigger pile and then that earns interest and it becomes a snowball effect. Right. And at first it doesn't feel like it's doing much. And that's why investing for the long term takes just patience and discipline. Because you're like, okay, I've made a little bit of money. But by the time 20 years down the road or 30 years down the road, $100,000 can become $1 million without you doing anything.
Amazing.
And that is the power. And I'll give you an example. It's because our brains, we think in a linear way. So we think things are just going to go along steadily. But with compounding, it's a logarithmic metric. An example is COVID. Okay. People saw, hey, you know what? There's only one case, 2 cases. We don't have to worry about it. Well, we saw that one case became 100 cases and then became 10,000 cases and then 1 million cases. That is a logarithmic metric. And money works the same way when you're using compounding. And that's why people think, well, it's just too much of an effort. There's no way I can be a millionaire. Those people are lucky. There's no magic to this. Right. It is being disciplined. It's creating a diversified portfolio. It's adjusting it when you need to. And usually that's when life circumstances have changed or you're just a little too offside, which changes the risk profile of your investment. Other than that, you really don't have to do much. Okay. And you just let it grow. And you keep adding as you go along. That's the magic. It really is.
And thank you for taking us through that. Because some people would hear the word compounding and just go, no, over my head, don't want to talk about it. Yeah. I'm happy you're not knowing. But talk to us about, so if I'm a woman and, I'm going to find out more about your course and see if it's a good fit for me and if it's something that I could do right now. If I choose, okay, maybe the course is something I can do a year from now, but right now I want to take, one baby step, or I want to take 2 or 3 baby steps in order to get started before I dive even deeper into your course. How do I do that? Like, what do I do as soon as I hang up from this live call? What's the first most important thing that I should be doing? Is it calling a financial planner? Is it calling my banker? Like what how do I even start?
How do you start? Okay, so my first step or recommendation would be take a look at where you are. You need to know where you are, and then understand where you want to go.
Okay.
So the first thing you should do is just take a look at your assets and your liabilities, as we call the net worth, right? How much money do you have in the bank account? I would always recommend you have 3 to 6 months emergency savings, which is your household income, your monthly income. You want about 3 to 6 months of that, because emergencies come up.
Well, as COVID has taught us.
Yes.
Yeah. This is true for your business too, by the way, ladies that are on this call. I think a lot of businesses don't do that. And I'm one as well that doesn't. I just don't have the savings in my account. And personally, a lot of people don't keep that savings. So that's a great tip.
Yeah. So that would be number one. And just take a look at where you are in terms of your investments. You know, what do you have? What do you owe? So a lot of people don't have that necessarily. They don't have that snapshot. So I would say that's the first thing you want to do. Okay. Second thing you want to do is just look at sit down with your partner or whoever. It could be just you on your own. That's fine. But just write down your financial goals. What are the things that you know you want to achieve? Retirement should always be on that list. But other than that, there could be trips. There could be you're saving for a home, or you want to quit your job and start a business, whatever it is. That would be your second thing, because then you understand where your picture is now, where you want to go. And then it's a lot more difficult. And this is what I teach in the course, but then you got to draw out your map of how you're going to get there. Okay. And then you start filling in the pieces, because you're going to start realizing, you know what, I may have to change my goals, or I need to cut back. Here's what I stress with women, though. We always typically go to the expense side. Again, because all the messages tell us just cut, save your. And I'm saying it is important. We cannot cut our way down. Because there is a floor. And I want women to start thinking about the revenue side of the equation.
Okay.
If you have what it takes to build wealth, and that means your job, like take a look at what you're doing, investing in yourself, whether it's a new career, asking for what you deserve if you're running a business, growing, being audacious, and then the investing piece is a big part of growing your wealth. So that's what I would say. Take a look at where you are, write down your goals. That's where I would say start first, because when you can do that, then you're going to start thinking in a way that says, you know what, I want to reach those goals. Now, what do I need to do?
Okay.
And you become more resourceful. But I do teach all of this in my course, but I also have some articles on the website as well, if anybody ever wants to take a look.
Yeah. And I think what I love the most about your course is I know you as a person, and I'm sure you are, there's the modules and it's all laid out, but I know you're also going to be, probably offering your own one-on-one advice. I'm guessing as part of it, right?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is for those who take the course, we're building a community. So for anybody there, we want women to support each other. That's why I do all of this, because I understand the power of women to coming together and empowering each other. Yeah. And then I would be active in it. So you get that help and the support and even the accountability along the way.
Right.
And if you decide that, I still need more help, I'm not anticipating it, but some people do. And they're like, I really need some help, guidance one-on-one. You have the opportunity to work with me, and I can coach you through. It probably takes a few sessions to do that, but that's what's available. I built this course honestly because I want to make an impact. This is not about just touching a few people. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that, Jodie, is we're not going to make changes if it's just a few people.
Right.
But when a lot of women are financially empowered, we financially empower other women. That's just how it works. We've seen it with Me Too. We've seen it in so many situations. I mean, not even with women, but with Black Lives Matter, right? That's how it happens. It's the power of people coming together and saying, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You have to start changing systems. The things that are just structurally biased against us women. That's how it happens. But I think it has to start with the education piece first.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I think what you're doing is so important for all women. So if I'm, looking at this course as an investment, what kind of return? I know you can't make any guarantees. I know you can't make any promises.
Yeah.
I know you, and I know you've probably done the math.
All that. Yeah.
If somebody makes this investment in the course, here's the long-term, return that they could get on spending some time. Like, we all do personal development, right? We all take time out of our day, but maybe a financial course isn't what is on your, your goal list. Yeah. Maybe you're thinking about, like I did, I'm going to go become a yoga teacher or whatever. But I'm not necessarily going, I'm going to prioritize my financial future by taking the course.
Yeah. But, yeah, and it's hard. I totally get it. If it feels intimidating, it's another thing on your list when you're all time starved. I get that. So that's why I designed this in a way. It's 10 weeks. If you take your time, which means it's a couple of hours a week, which I always say is probably less time than you spend on social media feeds. Probably, right? But you can finish it faster, and life gets busy, so you have longer time to take it. I'm giving people up to 9 months. The reason why I say 9 months is if you drag it on and drag it on and drag it on, you'll never complete it. And you need the stuff fresh in your mind. And I want you to have your own financial plan in place. That's why I'm teaching it. So it's new to you. The returns, the way I created this is you have the instructional videos, you have worksheets, you have downloadable plans. So you'll have a customized budget. You'll have a life insurance checklist. You'll have an advisor checklist. So you know exactly what questions to ask if you decide to work with an advisor. You have a goals plan. You got a net worth plan. There's tons of stuff. I do that because there are some women who really want to dig in, and encourage them, because the more you do, the more you're going to get out of it. But some people are just not built that way. They're like, I don't have the time. So, okay, so you're going to go through the videos. You might do maybe 20% of the work. Your return is still massive on this because I'm teaching you the hacks on how to save. So right away, you're going to be saving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. You think about that over time. That's just the saving, because I know I'm taking into account a lot of behavioral finance. So making the path very easy for you. So I've built that. That's one piece. Then if you just look at the wealth piece, well, if I help you set up a portfolio and you're looking at $100,000 that can eventually grow to $500,000-$600,000, and I'm helping you save money and making sure that you're not put in products that make the advisor a lot of money and not you a lot of money.
Right. That happens.
That's hundreds, if not thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just
of a return that you can get. Yeah. That's amazing.
So I know that you definitely get your return on investment, but I always say there's that other piece, like that's the monetary benefits. The other piece of it is, imagine how you feel,
empowered.
It's a non-monetary piece. It's the you're not going to feel stressed. You're going to feel like you have financial control and you're not vulnerable to unforeseen circumstances that unfortunately are there.
Right. And now we don't know when we are going to get out of, COVID and the financial hardships and this recession that we're in. We don't know how long this is going to last. And so, again, this is so timely that we're having this discussion. It's so timely that you've developed this course. But I love what you said, that nothing would have changed if you were developing this course today versus when you did develop it a year ago, because these are all fundamental principles that we should all be employing every single day of our lives, especially, men and women, both, but especially as women, because we tend to not really take charge of our financial future.
We don't, and we just have, unfortunately, bigger uphill challenges that I want to fix. And I just believe that together, when we're financially empowered and we understand what's happening, we're going to use our collective voices to change that. It always goes back to, they're not going to care about our financial future if we don't.
Right.
So
I love that.
And,
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been such a wealth of information. I know there was a lot of stats and a lot of stuff that I wanted you to share today. We covered pretty much the highlights. You know, is there any other kind of burning point that you want to make sure gets out, Saijal, before we start to wrap up?
No, not really. I think we've covered a lot. I think what I would say is, you know, I often get asked the question of just, why is this so hard? You know, why do we put this one aside? And it's a challenge that any of us in this financial wellness space that care are dealing with. Because I talked to other people in my space. I was having a conversation with a scholar in the US he said, I'm terrified for what's coming up, and I'm realizing people aren't aware. And I said, so am I. And I said, here's the challenge that we face, is because human nature is, we prioritize now. You know, we're not thinking years down the road. That's just human nature. We are also living in a world of instant gratification. You know, so there's so much that is going on that's just subconscious, you know, that we're not aware of it. And the other piece is, we are all time starved. I don't believe that women don't care about this. I know women care about this because I'm always having this conversation. It's that feeling of, but I'm so busy. Yeah. And there's so much. And the second you start thinking, oh my God, but it's so huge. It's like this mountain to climb to try to figure this out. And I don't know what I'm doing. You're already thinking, this is just too big of a piece. It's like the elephant, right? Like, you can't, how are you going to tackle this? So you're just like, I'll just deal with it later. It's so easy to procrastinate. When you work out, you know, you go out and you work out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or you go on a no carb plan and you see instant results. Money doesn't work like that. Right. I think that's the challenge. And it's a challenge that I'm dealing with every day. And trust me, I understand it. But my message is still, it's just too important not to prioritize. And it just means a different mindset. It means shifting and putting into place things where you're not having to work hard. And that's really what I teach. It's just creating it so it's easy for you and just leave it. That's what I've done. Yeah. And there are ways to do that. Very easy. There are ways to do that. And you're the best person to teach me that. Yeah, I would like to think so. But I know so. I know I've been for a few years. I know so. So before we close, I have one final question for you, which is, you're in your 40s. Yes. What would you tell your younger self about what it's like, or, you know, how to prepare, or, you know, who you're going to be when you're in your 40s? If you could go back, you know, 20 years, 30 years, what would you tell younger Saijal about life in your 40s? Oh my goodness. I was going to say take risks, but honestly, I've taken a lot of risks. That's not it. I would say don't be a perfectionist. So one of the things that I tend to do, and I still do it, is I overthink. You know, I have to prepare and make sure everything's right before I act. Okay. And what I have learned is, you got to prepare a little bit, but nothing's going to be perfect. You're never going to have the perfect environment or perfect situation. So just act, get out there. But as you do it, the answers tend to come. And I'm a huge believer in that, Jodie. I do believe the universe meets us halfway. Absolutely. When you put it out there, the universe is conspiring to meet you. It doesn't mean that you're just kind of go, hey, help me. You have to help yourself. I do believe that, but I do believe that. And I've seen it over and over and over again in my life. Amazing. Amazing. That's what I would say, is just don't overthink, get out there, try things, be perfectly okay with failure. Because first of all, I don't believe in failure. I don't even know what that word is. You either, something doesn't work and you learn, or you succeed. That's it. So there's really no downside.
Yeah, we're still learning and there's still benefit from it. So yeah, you're right. It's not a failure. Yeah. Oh, I love that. You always have so much wisdom. I love our conversations, and I want to thank you so much for being here today. So once again, people can find Saijal at Saij Elle on Instagram,
on Facebook. Yeah. And I know there might be questions. I don't know how this works, but if you have questions, please feel free to just message me. If it's here, I will be happy to answer those for you. And if you just want to follow up and send me a question, even through Facebook or something else, I'll be happy to answer those questions. Yeah.
And you're also on LinkedIn. So if people are on LinkedIn, you can find her, Saijal Patel, on LinkedIn. So there's a whole bunch of ways you can get in touch with her. If you can't find her, just send me a message and I will be sure to connect you with Saijal. So thank you so much, Saijal, for being here.
Thank you. It was a great conversation. I talked your ears off and everyone else's.
It was so perfect. It was so timely and on point. And as Saijal says, these are skills that we need all the time, not just in this year of 2020 when we've been facing some new challenges. So thanks, Saijal, for being here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, you too.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.